The massive alien fleet moved through space like a dark cloud of metal and death. 1,000 ships sailed toward the small blue planet that the locals called Earth. At the front of this terrible armada flew the flagship of Commander Vexitar, a being who had conquered 47 worlds without ever losing a single battle. Vexitar sat in his command chair, his 6 arms crossed in satisfaction. His red eyes glowed as he looked at the readings from his scouts. This planet looked so weak and defenseless. No space stations orbited around it. No mighty fleets protected its skies. The creatures down there probably still used primitive rockets to barely escape their own gravity. Another easy victory, Vexitar said to his second-in-command. These humans will surrender before we even reach their atmosphere. They always do when they see the might of the hegemony empire. The empire had been growing for 3,000 years. Every species they met either joined them willingly or got crushed under their boot. Vexitar had personally overseen the destruction of 12 civilizations that dared to resist. This little world would be no different. Far below on Earth, in a building hidden deep beneath the busy city of Seoul, Admiral Hyunwoo Park watched the approaching fleet on his screens. The 60-year-old man had spent his entire life preparing for this moment. His gray hair and calm eyes showed no fear, only quiet determination. "Sir, we are receiving their transmission," said Captain So-Young Kim, his young aide. She was barely 30 but had already proven herself as one of Earth's best tactical officers. Her fingers moved quickly across her control panel as alien voices filled the command center. The message was simple and brutal. The hegemony empire demanded immediate surrender. All humans must bow down and accept slavery. Earth would become another resource world, its people working in mines and factories to serve their new masters. Any resistance would result in the complete destruction of every city on the planet. "How long do we have?" Admiral Park asked. "They are giving us 24 hours to respond," Captain Kim replied. "Standard Imperial protocol. They want us to panic and give up without a fight." Admiral Park nodded slowly. 24 hours. The same amount of time the Empire had given to the peaceful farmers of Kepler 442b before burning their forests. The same deadline they offered to the ocean dwellers of Proxima 7 before boiling their seas. Always 24 hours to choose between slavery and death. Across the building, Dr. Jin-Ho Lee studied the alien communications with intense focus. The 45-year-old scientist had learned 17 different alien languages in his career. He knew more about the hegemony empire than almost any human alive. His research had revealed the terrible truth about these conquerors. They have enslaved over 3,000 worlds, Dr. Lee reported to the assembled officers. 17 different intelligent species work as their slaves. They take children from their families and turn them into soldiers. They strip entire planets of resources until nothing remains but dust. The room fell silent. Everyone knew the stories, but hearing the numbers made it real. 3,000 worlds, trillions of beings living under imperial rule, families torn apart, cultures destroyed, hope crushed under the empire's iron fist. "What about their military strength?" asked Commander Yoon-ji Choi. The tough woman had risen through the ranks of the Terra Defense Corps, through skill and determination. Her short black hair and serious expression made her look like a warrior ready for battle. "Their ships use plasma weapons and energy shields," Dr. Lee explained. "Each vessel carries between 50 and 500 troops. Their flagship can destroy a city with a single shot. They have never lost a major battle in recorded history." Commander Choi smiled grimly. "Then they are in for a surprise." She walked to her secure terminal and began entering codes that had waited unused for 40 years. Protocol Omega was about to begin. Earth's greatest secret would finally be revealed, but only when the time was right. Meanwhile, the hegemony fleet continued its approach. On the flagship, Vexitar received reports from his science officers. The planet had a single moon, standard gravity, and breathable atmosphere, perfect for colonization after the current inhabitants were dealt with. "Commander, we are detecting some unusual energy readings," reported his chief scientist. "There appears to be more electromagnetic activity than expected for a primitive world." Vextar waved a dismissive arm. Probably their crude power plants and communication systems. These backward species always produce messy energy signatures. It means nothing. The scientist looked uncertain but said nothing more. In the Hegemony Empire, questioning a commander's judgment was a crime punishable by death. The energy readings were strange, but perhaps the commander was right. After all, every world they had conquered looked helpless at first glance. Back on Earth, President Minho Kang prepared to address both his own people and the alien fleet. The 58-year-old leader had been elected just 2 years ago, but he had been briefed on Earth's hidden defenses since the day he took office. Now he would have to make the most important speech in human history. In laboratories around the world, scientists made final preparations. Chief Engineer Sujin Nam ran diagnostics on systems that had been tested in secret for decades. The brilliant woman had spent 15 years perfecting technology that the Empire believed was impossible. Her hands moved with practiced efficiency as she activated dormant networks hidden across the globe. Captain Dong Hyun-yu sat in the pilot seat of humanity's most advanced warship. The vessel hung in space, invisible to all sensors, waiting for orders. Around him, his crew prepared for a battle that would determine the fate of every human being. The 35-year-old captain had trained his entire adult life for this moment. "All stations report ready," his communications officer announced. "Good," Captain Yu replied. "Remember, we only get one chance to show them what humanity is really capable of. Make it count." The alien fleet drew closer. Commander Vexitar prepared his standard victory speech. He had given the same words to 47 different species before crushing their hope forever. These humans would be no different. But deep beneath Seoul, Admiral Park looked at his displays with quiet confidence. The Empire had made one critical mistake. They had assumed that silence meant weakness. They believed that hiding meant cowardice. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The countdown began. 24 hours until humanity's greatest test. 24 hours until the galaxy discovered that Earth would not go quietly into slavery. The Hegemony Empire had prohibited free peoples from living in peace for 3,000 years. Now Earth was about to return the favor. The 24 hours passed like a ticking bomb. Across Earth, billions of people watched their screens as the alien fleet moved closer. Many were afraid, some prayed, others prepared to fight with whatever weapons they could find. But in the hidden command centers around the world, humanity's leaders remained calm. President Minho Kang stood before the cameras in his underground bunker. His dark suit was perfectly pressed, his expression steady and confident. Behind him, screens showed the massive alien fleet hanging in space like vultures waiting to feed. The entire world watched as he began to speak. "People of Earth and visitors from beyond our world," President Kang said in a clear, strong voice. "I address you both in this historic moment. To my fellow humans, do not fear. We have prepared for this day longer than most of you know. To the Hegemony Empire, I have a simple message." On the flagship, Commander Vextar leaned forward in his chair. His red eyes glowed with amusement. Another primitive leader about to beg for mercy. He had heard the same pathetic speeches from dozens of species. "We know who you are," President Kang continued. "We know what you have done to 3,000 worlds. We know about the families you have torn apart, the children you have stolen, the civilizations you have destroyed. We have watched you for 50 years, and we have learned everything about your empire." Vextar's amusement began to fade. These humans knew about the Empire's history? How was that possible? His species had never even visited this system before today. "You have 10 minutes to turn your ships around and leave our solar system," President Kang said calmly. "This is your only warning. Earth is under the protection of humanity, and we do not allow slavers in our space." The alien bridge erupted in laughter. Vextar's officers could barely contain themselves. A species with no space fleet was ordering the mighty Hegemony Empire to retreat. It was the most ridiculous thing they had ever heard. "Commander, should we respond to this comedy?" asked his second in command. "No," Vextar replied, wiping tears from his eyes. "Let them have their brave words. In 10 minutes, we will begin the bombardment. Their planet will burn. and the survivors will remember this foolish speech as they work in our minds. But in the deep laboratories beneath Seoul, Chief Engineer Sujin Nam was not laughing. The brilliant 42-year-old woman had spent her entire career building the most advanced defense system ever created. Her fingers danced across control panels as she brought Earth's hidden weapons online. "All generators are ready," she reported to Admiral Park. "The shield network has been charging for 72 hours. We have enough power to maintain full protection for 6 months." Admiral Park nodded. "Begin activation on my mark." Around the world, structures that looked like ordinary buildings began to change. Office towers in New York started to glow with blue energy. Mountain peaks in the Himalayas revealed hidden machinery. Deep ocean platforms rose from the seafloor, their surfaces crackling with power. The aliens noticed the energy readings immediately. On the Hegemony flagship, sensors began screaming warnings. Power levels on the planet below were climbing to impossible heights. "Commander, we are detecting massive energy buildup across the planet," the science officer reported, his voice shaking. "These readings are beyond anything in our database." Vextar's laughter died. He stared at his screens as the numbers continued to climb. Whatever these humans were doing, it was using more power than most star systems produced. "Impossible," he whispered. "No primitive species could generate this much energy." President Kang's voice continued to broadcast across all frequencies. "Your 10 minutes are up. You have chosen to remain in our space without permission. Earth will now demonstrate why that was a mistake." Chief Engineer Nam looked at Admiral Park. The old soldier gave a single nod. "Activate Terra Shield," Nam commanded. The effect was instant and breathtaking. A dome of brilliant blue energy erupted from thousands of points across Earth's surface. The dome expanded rapidly, growing until it surrounded the entire planet, in a sphere of crackling power. The shield was so bright it could be seen from the moon. On the alien ships, every sensor went crazy. The energy output was beyond their understanding. It was as if the humans had somehow harnessed the power of their own star. "What is that thing?" Vextar demanded. His science officer stared at the readings in disbelief. "It appears to be some kind of planetary defense shield, Commander. But the technology is impossible. The power requirements alone would need the energy of 100 suns." "Then destroy it," Vextar roared. "All ships target the energy sources on the planet. Full plasma bombardment." The Hegemony fleet opened fire. 1,000 ships unleashed their weapons at once. Streams of superheated plasma rained down on Earth like falling stars. Each blast carried enough power to level a city. The combined firepower could have cracked a moon in half. The plasma bolts struck the blue shield and simply vanished. They did not explode or cause any damage. They just disappeared as if they had never existed. The shield did not even flicker. Vextar's jaw dropped. His most powerful weapons had done absolutely nothing. "Fire again. All weapons, maximum power." The second barrage was even larger than the first. Every gun on every ship fired at once. The space around Earth lit up like a new sun as plasma beams struck the shield from every direction. Again, nothing happened. The blue dome remained perfect and unbroken. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, Captain Dong Hyun Yu received his orders. The 35-year-old pilot had waited his entire career for this moment. Around him, his crew prepared their ship for battle. "Cloak deactivation in 3, 2, 1, his tactical officer announced. The human warship materialized in space like a ghost, becoming solid. It was sleek and deadly, shaped like a blade cutting through the darkness. Advanced weapon systems hummed with power along its hull. On the alien flagship, alarms began screaming. "Commander, we have a new contact. Unknown vessel appearing off our starboard bow." Vextar spun to look at the main screen. A single ship hung in space before his massive fleet. It was smaller than his flagship, but radiated energy signatures unlike anything he had ever seen. "One ship?" He laughed, but his voice sounded forced. "They send one ship against 1,000? His laughter died as more contacts appeared on his sensors. Another human ship decloaked behind his fleet, then another to his left. More and more vessels appeared until they surrounded the entire Hegemony armada. "How many ships do they have?" Vextar whispered. Sensors count 800 vessels, Commander, his tactical officer reported. All of unknown configuration. Energy. Signatures are off the charts. Admiral Ji Young Ryu's voice broadcast from the lead human ship. The 53-year-old woman had commanded fleets in secret exercises for 20 years. Now she faced real enemies for the first time. Hegemony forces. This is Admiral Ryu of the Terran Defense Fleet. You are surrounded and outgunned. Surrender, now or face the consequences. Vextar could not believe what he was hearing. These primitive humans claimed to have outgunned his mighty fleet? It was madness. Attack! He screamed. All ships, fire everything. The battle began. Plasma beams lanced out from the alien vessels, striking the human ships with tremendous force. For a moment, Vexatar thought he might still win. Then the human ships fired back. Beams of pure white energy shot from the Terran vessels. They cut through the hegemony shields like hot knives through paper. Alien ships exploded in brilliant fireballs, as their hulls were torn apart by weapons they could not understand. In minutes, a dozen Imperial vessels were destroyed. The humans had not lost a single ship. Impossible, Vextar raged. Our shields are the strongest in the galaxy. But Admiral, Ryu was not finished. Her voice filled the communication channels once more. Hegemony Empire, you have enslaved 3,000 worlds. You have destroyed countless civilizations. Earth has been watching you for 50 years. We know all your weapons, all your tactics, all your weaknesses. She paused, letting her words sink in. Your empire ends today. Commander Vextar watched in horror as more of his ships exploded around him. The mighty hegemony fleet was being torn apart by weapons he could not understand. White beams of energy cut through his strongest vessels like they were made of paper. In 10 minutes of fighting, he had lost over 50 ships while the humans had not lost even one. Send an emergency signal to the Second Fleet, he screamed at his communications officer. Tell them we need immediate reinforcement. The young officer's hands shook as he sent the distress call. Message sent, Commander. The Second Fleet is 3 hours away. 3 hours. Vextar looked at his tactical display and felt fear creep into his heart for the first time in his military career. At this rate of destruction, his entire armada would be space dust long before help arrived. On Earth, Intelligence Officer Kyung-mi, Han intercepted the alien message from her hidden base beneath the mountains of North Korea. The 38-year-old woman had spent her entire career learning to decode alien communications. Her computers automatically translated the desperate call for help. Admiral Park, she reported through secure channels. The enemy is calling for backup. Their Second Fleet consists of 1,500 ships. They will arrive in approximately 3 hours. Admiral Hyunwoo Park nodded calmly from his command center. Understood. Alert Fleet Admiral Yoon. It is time for Phase 2. High above Earth's atmosphere, Fleet Admiral Tae-ho Yoon received his orders. The 60-year-old commander had been planning this moment for 30 years. His flagship, invisible, to all alien sensors hung in space like a sleeping giant waiting to wake. All ships, this is Fleet Admiral Yoon, he broadcast to the hidden human armada. The enemy is calling for reinforcements. We will not give them the chance to regroup. Begin Operation Thunderstrike. Around the solar system, human ships that had been hiding for hours suddenly appeared. They emerged from behind asteroids, decloaked near the outer planets, and rose from hidden bases on Mars and the Moon. The hegemony fleet found themselves facing not 800 human vessels, but over 2,000. Squadron leader Young Suk Jung led the first wave of human fighters. The 28-year-old pilot had trained in secret facilities his entire adult life. His small but deadly spacecraft moved through space in ways that defied everything the aliens knew about physics. Red Squadron, engage the enemy escorts, he commanded. Remember your training. These ships are fast but predictable. Use gravity assist maneuvers to stay ahead of their targeting systems. Young Suk's fighter suddenly accelerated to impossible speeds, twisting through space in a spiral pattern that should have torn any normal craft apart. Behind him, his squadron followed in perfect formation. They dove toward the alien fleet like hawks attacking mice. The hegemony fighters tried to intercept them but found themselves completely outmatched. The human ships moved as if gravity had no hold on them. They turned sharp corners at full speed, accelerated instantly in any direction, and seemed to ignore the basic laws of physics. "How are they doing that?" demanded Vextar's flight commander. "No ship can move like that without killing the pilot." But the human pilots were very much alive. They danced between the alien fighters, their weapons cutting through enemy ships with surgical precision. In minutes, the entire hegemony fighter screen was destroyed. On the flagship of the human fleet, Commander Hyejin Moon prepared for the next phase of the battle. The 41-year-old woman had been chosen to lead the outer system defense because of her brilliant tactical mind. She had studied every battle the hegemony empire had ever fought and knew exactly how they would respond. Enemy. Second Fleet detected at the edge of the system, her sensor officer reported. 1,500 ships approaching at maximum speed. Commander Moon smiled coldly. Perfect. They are coming exactly where we want them. Activate the Jupiter gate. Near the giant planet Jupiter, something impossible happened. Space itself began to twist and bend. A hole in reality opened up, revealing swirling energies that hurt to look at directly. Through this impossible doorway, more human ships poured into the solar system. The arriving hegemony Second Fleet suddenly found themselves face to face with a fresh human armada emerging from what appeared to be a tear in space itself. Admiral Kothavar, commander of the Second Fleet, stared at his screens in disbelief. "What is that thing?" he demanded. His science officer's voice cracked with fear. "It appears to be some kind of artificial wormhole, Admiral. But that technology is theoretically impossible. No species in the galaxy has ever mastered space-time manipulation." Admiral Kothvar had conquered 23 worlds and never felt fear. But watching human ships emerge from a hole in reality made his blood run cold. These creatures were not primitive at all. They had technology that surpassed even the oldest civilizations in the galaxy. Back on Earth, Dr. Sun-Hee Bei watched the battle from her laboratory. The 55-year-old physicist had spent 20 years developing humanity's most advanced weapons. Her greatest creation was about to be tested in real combat for the first time. "Gravity lance charging," she reported to Fleet Command. "Target lock acquired on enemy flagship." High above, Fleet Admiral Yoon's ship aimed a weapon that no alien species had ever imagined. The gravity lance did not fire bullets or energy beams. Instead, it manipulated the force that held planets in orbit around stars. "Fire," Admiral Yoon commanded. An invisible wave of gravitational force struck the hegemony flagship. The massive vessel, which had survived 1,000 battles, suddenly found itself being pulled in 6 different directions at once. Metal screamed, as the ship was torn apart by forces that could move moons. Commander Vextar felt his ship breaking up around him. Emergency lights flashed as hull plates were ripped away by gravitational tides. "All hands abandon ship," he screamed, but it was too late. The flagship exploded in a ball of fire that could be seen from Earth. The battle turned into a massacre. Human ships used weapons that defied understanding. Some fired beams that passed through shields as if they did not exist. Others created miniature black holes that swallowed enemy vessels whole. A few simply made alien ships disappear entirely, as if they had never existed at all. General Shung-Ho Lim monitored the battle from his command post on the dark side of the moon. The 57-year-old strategist had been tracking hegemony fleet movements for decades using a network of spy satellites spread across the galaxy. "Sir, we are detecting movement from 12 more Imperial fleets," his intelligence officer reported. "They are converging on our position from across the sector." General Lim nodded calmly. "Expected. The Empire has never faced a real challenge before. They will throw everything they have at us before they accept defeat." He turned to his communications panel. "Alert all hidden bases. It is time to reveal our full strength. Send activation codes to Ghost Fleet, Shadow Fleet, and the Deep Space Division." Across the galaxy, human ships that had been hiding for decades suddenly came online. Secret bases built inside asteroids powered up their weapons. Cloaked stations in empty space revealed themselves and began broadcasting Earth's message to enslaved worlds everywhere. The hegemony empire had ruled through fear for 3,000 years. They had crushed every species that dared resist them. But they had never faced humanity before. Now they were about to learn why that had been their greatest mistake. On his dying flagship, Commander Vextar managed to send one final message before his ship was consumed by gravitational forces. His words reached every corner of the Empire, carrying news that would shake the foundation of their civilization. "The humans are not primitive," he gasped into his communicator. "They have been watching us. They know everything. Their technology is beyond our understanding. The Empire is in danger." His transmission ended as his ship collapsed into itself, crushed by artificial gravity waves that humanity wielded like a sword. The message reached the Imperial capital 12 hours later. For the first time in 3 millennia, the hegemony Empire faced an enemy they could not understand, could not defeat, and could not escape. Earth had declared war on tyranny itself, and Earth was winning. The news of the hegemony's defeat spread across the galaxy like wildfire. On 3,000 enslaved worlds, beings who had lived under Imperial rule for generations heard something they had never thought possible. The mighty Empire had been crushed by a single planet called Earth. On the water world of Aquarius Prime, the fish-like swimmers gathered in their underwater cities to whisper about the impossible news. For 800 years they had served the Empire as forced laborers in deep ocean mines. Now they dared to hope that freedom might be real. "Is it true?" asked Elder Finkeeper Coral to her council. "Did the humans really destroy an entire Imperial fleet?" "The broadcasts are being repeated on every frequency," replied her aide. "The humans are sending messages to all enslaved worlds. They say they want to help us gain our freedom." Ambassador Insu Park stood before the cameras. In Earth's hidden transmission center, the 43-year-old diplomat had studied alien cultures his entire career. He knew that hope was the most dangerous thing to offer enslaved peoples, but also the most powerful. "People of the galaxy," he began, his voice carrying across space to thousands of worlds. "My name is Insu Park, and I speak for the planet, Earth. We know you have suffered under Imperial rule. We know your children have been taken from you. We know your worlds have been stripped of resources while you starve. On the crystal world of Shard Valley, the rock people called the miners stopped their endless digging to listen. They had been slaves for so long that some had forgotten their world had once been beautiful. But today, everything changes," Ambassador Park continued. "Earth offers alliance to any world that seeks freedom. We will provide weapons, ships, and training to those brave enough to throw off their chains. The age of the hegemony empire is ending." In the imperial capital of Dominion Prime, Overlord Krath the Terrible paced his throne room in fury. The massive being stood 12 feet tall, his 4 arms ending in claws that could tear through steel. His black eyes burned with rage as he listened to reports from across his empire. "How many fleets have we lost?" he demanded of his cowering advisors. 7 full armadas, my lord," replied his military commander, General Zeth. "Over 8,000, ships destroyed. The humans use weapons we cannot understand or defend against." Overlord Krath roared in anger, his voice shaking the walls of his palace. 8,000 ships? How is this possible? They are one primitive world. Strategic analyst Mi Young Song monitored the Imperial communications from her secret base on Europa, one of Jupiter's moons. The 35-year-old intelligence expert had been infiltrating Imperial networks for 15 years. Her discoveries were now paying off in ways the Empire could never imagine. "Admiral Park," she reported through secure channels, "we have confirmed the location of 47 Imperial supply depots, 12 major shipyards, and the coordinates of their main battle fleets. Our agents have been in position for years." Admiral Park nodded grimly. Humanity had not spent 50 years just watching. They had been preparing, infiltrating, and positioning themselves for this exact moment. Begin Operation Liberation. It is time to free the galaxy. Across Imperial space, human agents who had lived undercover for decades suddenly revealed themselves. On the factory world of Ironbelt, Dr. Jae-Sung Kim emerged from his hiding place among the enslaved workers. The biochemist had spent 10 years learning about Imperial industrial systems while pretending to be a captured scientist from a destroyed world. "Workers of Iron Belt," he called to the thousands of beings laboring in the massive factories. "Earth has come to liberate you. Take these weapons and fight for your freedom." He opened crates that had been hidden for years, revealing advanced human weapons. The enslaved beings stared in amazement at guns that could cut through Imperial armor like paper. For the first time in generations, they had the tools to fight back. Similar scenes played out on dozens of worlds. Human agents revealed hidden weapon caches, activated communication networks, and began coordinating the largest rebellion in galactic history. Species that had been enemies under Imperial rule now worked together against their common oppressor. On the mining world of Rock Crusher, the insect-like diggers joined forces with the plant-based growers to attack Imperial garrison forces. The two species had been forced to compete for food scraps for centuries. Now they fought side by side using human weapons to destroy their oppressors. Diplomatic Corps leader Jae-hyun coordinated the rebellion from his mobile command ship. The 48-year-old former ambassador had left his comfortable position on Earth 20 years ago to live among alien refugees. He understood their pain and their hope better than any human alive. Sector 7 reports successful uprising, his communications officer announced. The Imperial garrison has surrendered. Sector 12 has declared independence. Sector 15 is requesting immediate military support. Leader O nodded as he studied the galactic map. Green lights marked liberated systems while red showed areas still under Imperial control. The green was spreading faster than anyone had dared hope. Meanwhile, Overlord Krath made a desperate decision. If individual fleets could not defeat these humans, he would gather every ship in the Empire for one massive assault. "Send orders to all sectors," he commanded. "Every available vessel is to converge on the Sol system. We will crush this rebellion at its source." Admiral Gi Kwan had been waiting for exactly this order. The 51-year-old fleet commander had positioned his forces throughout Imperial space over the past 5 years. His ships had been disguised as asteroids, hidden in nebulae and camouflaged among space debris. "All ghost units, this is Admiral Kwan," he broadcast on ultra-secure frequencies. "The Empire is pulling all fleets to Earth. Begin simultaneous strikes on all core worlds. Operation Checkmate is now active." The Empire's recall order became their greatest mistake. As Imperial fleets abandoned their positions to attack Earth, human ships emerged from hiding throughout their territory. The Empire's most important world suddenly found themselves defenseless. On Dominion Prime itself, cloaked human vessels appeared in orbit around the capital world. The Empire's leaders watched in terror as Earth's most advanced ships materialized above their heads. Dr. Bora Young activated her experimental stellar manipulation device from her laboratory ship. The brilliant 40-year-old physicist had discovered how to control the energy output of stars themselves. Her target was not Dominion Prime, but the 3 artificial suns that powered the Imperial capital's massive cities. "Initiating solar disruption field," she reported calmly. "Target stars will reduce output by 90% in 30 minutes. No permanent damage to the stellar bodies, but all Imperial infrastructure will lose power." Across the capital world, the lights began to go out. Massive factories shut down. Transportation systems failed. Communication networks went dark. The most advanced world in the Empire was suddenly plunged into darkness. In his throne room, Overlord Krath watched his empire collapse in real time. Reports flooded in from every corner of Imperial space. Rebellions on 200 worlds. Core systems under attack. Supply lines cut. Battle fleets trapped between human forces and rebel uprisings. "My lord," General Zeth said quietly, "we are receiving surrender offers from 17 sector commanders. They say resistance is impossible." Overlord Krath's claws dug gouges in his throne. "Impossible? We have ruled for 3,000 years. How can one species destroy everything we have built?" The answer came from an unexpected source. On the screens, throughout his palace, the face of President Minho Kang appeared. The human leader looked directly at the camera, as if he could see into the Imperial throne room itself. "Overlord Krath," President Kang said calmly. Earth has been watching your empire for 50 years. We have seen the suffering you have caused. We have recorded every atrocity, every crime against innocent beings. Your reign of terror is over." He paused, letting his words sink in across the galaxy. "Surrender now, and your people will be treated with mercy. Continue to fight, and we will dismantle your empire piece by piece until nothing remains but the freedom you tried to destroy." Overlord Krath stared at the screen in disbelief. A primitive human was offering him terms of surrender. Him, the ruler of 3,000 worlds. But as he looked at the reports flowing in from across his crumbling empire, he began to understand a terrible truth. These humans had not just defeated his fleets. They had orchestrated the systematic destruction of everything he had built. They had been planning this for 50 years, and they were winning. 6 months after the first shots were fired, the hegemony empire lay in ruins. On 3,000 worlds, beings who had known only slavery for generations walked free under open skies. The imperial fleets that had terrorized the galaxy for millennia were nothing but scrap metal floating in space. President Haewon Shin stood before the newly formed Galactic Council on the neutral world of Haven Station. The 54-year-old leader had taken office just weeks after the Empire's final defeat. Her first act had been to address the liberated peoples of the galaxy with a message of hope and cooperation. "Friends from across the stars," she began, her voice carrying to billions of beings on thousands of worlds. "Today we gather not as conquerors and conquered, but as equals united in our desire for peace and freedom." In the Great Assembly Hall, representatives from dozens of species sat together for the first time in 3,000 years. The fish-like swimmers from Aquarius, Prime sat beside the rock people miners from Shard Valley. Former enemies had become allies in building a new future. Admiral Chang Min Kang supervised the liberation efforts from his flagship, orbiting the former imperial capital. The 47-year-old commander had spent the past months ensuring peaceful transitions on hundreds of worlds. His ships protected newly freed peoples while they established their own governments. "Status report from Sector 12, his communications officer announced. "The growers have successfully formed their first elected council. They are requesting technical assistance to repair their damaged ecosystems." Admiral Kang nodded approvingly. "Send a science team immediately. Priority 1 is restoring their agricultural systems." He had seen too many worlds where the Empire had stripped away natural resources, leaving entire populations on the edge of starvation. On the crystal world of Shard Valley, the miners worked together with human engineers to rebuild their shattered cities. Chief Engineer Nam Jun-yu led a team of specialists who were teaching advanced construction techniques that would help restore the planet's beauty. "Your crystal formations are remarkable," Engineer Yu told Elder Crystal Singer, the leader of the miners. "With proper care, your world could become more beautiful than it ever was before the Empire arrived." The elderly rock being's eyes sparkled with hope. "Our young ones have never seen the rainbow peaks in their full glory. The Empire forced us to mine them for materials. Can they truly be restored?" "Not only restored," Engineer Yu smiled, "but enhanced. We can teach you methods that will make them grow stronger and more brilliant than ever before." Meanwhile, on the water world of Aquarius Prime, the swimmers celebrated their first free spawning season in 8 centuries. Dr. Subin Park, a marine biologist from Earth, worked with their scientists to clean the oceans that had been polluted by imperial mining operations. "The coral reefs are responding better than expected," Dr. Park reported to her surface team. "With the nano-cleaners we introduce, the water should be completely purified within 2 years." Elder Finkeeper Coral swam alongside the human scientist, marveling at the technology that could heal centuries of damage in just months. "Your people truly wish to help us with no payment demanded?" "Freedom is payment enough," Dr. Park replied. "Earth learned long ago that a galaxy where all beings can thrive is better for everyone. But not all transitions were peaceful. On the fortress, world of Iron Fist, former Imperial officers attempted to maintain control through force. Justice Minister Young-Ho Kim arrived with a fleet of human peacekeepers to restore order. "General Vorthak," Minister Kim addressed the alien warlord over open communications, "you have been found guilty of crimes against sentient beings. Surrender." now and face fair trial, or continue fighting and face the consequences. The reptilian general hissed his defiance. I will never bow to inferior species. The Empire will rise again. Minister Kim sighed sadly. Some beings had been so twisted by the Empire's cruel system that they could not accept change. Very well. All civilian populations have been evacuated. Begin surgical strikes on military targets only. Human ships descended on the fortress world with precision that amazed even their own crews. Weapons that could destroy entire cities instead targeted only military installations, leaving hospitals and schools untouched. In 6 hours, all resistance was eliminated without a single civilian casualty. General Vorthak found himself in chains, facing judges from a dozen different species. But even he was surprised by the verdict. Instead of execution, he was sentenced to community service on a world his forces had devastated, helping to rebuild what he had destroyed. Chief Scientist Daeun Lee oversaw the greatest technology transfer in galactic history from her laboratories on Earth. The brilliant researcher had spent years developing systems that could be safely shared with other species without creating new weapons of war. Medical technology goes to all worlds immediately, she announced to her global team. Agricultural systems next, then clean energy. Weapons technology remains restricted until the new galactic government is fully established. Her work was already showing results across the galaxy. Diseases that had plagued entire species for millennia were being cured with human medicine. Barren worlds were blooming again with Earth's agricultural techniques. Clean fusion reactors replaced the dangerous power systems the Empire had forced on conquered worlds. On the moon of Europa, Admiral Hyunwoo Park stood in the same command center where he had first detected the approaching Imperial fleet. The old soldier looked tired but satisfied as he watched reports of peaceful progress flowing in from across the galaxy. Sir, Captain So-Young Kim approached with the day's intelligence summary. We have confirmed the location of the last Imperial holdout fleet. Admiral Youngmin Ko is requesting permission to begin final operations. Admiral Park nodded slowly. Tell Admiral Ko to offer them one final chance to surrender. If they refuse, then end it quickly and cleanly. 3 days later, the last Imperial ship surrendered without firing a shot. Their crews, realizing that resistance was hopeless and that Earth offered mercy to those who laid down their arms, chose freedom over futile death. Overlord Krath himself sat in a comfortable prison on Earth, writing his memoirs under human supervision. The former tyrant had been sentenced to life in prison, but even he admitted that human justice was more merciful than anything his empire had ever offered. Why do you treat your enemies so well? He asked his human guard one day. Dr. Min Seo-young, the prison psychologist, considered the question carefully. Because we remember what it was like to be afraid of powerful bullies. We choose to break the cycle of violence rather than continue it. President Shin addressed the galaxy one final time from the steps of the new Galactic Senate building on Haven Station. Behind her, representatives from every free world in the galaxy gathered to sign the Charter of Universal Rights. Today, we establish not an empire but a community, she declared. No world will be forced to join. No species will be compelled to serve another. Each being has the right to live free, to choose their own path, and to reach for the stars. The document they signed that day established principles that would guide the galaxy for millennia to come. Every sentient being had the right to freedom, dignity, and self-determination. No species could be enslaved or forced to serve another. Conflicts would be resolved through negotiation, not conquest. Admiral Park watched the ceremony from his retirement home on the shores of the Han River in Korea. The old soldier had lived to see humanity achieve something no species in galactic history had ever managed. They had not conquered the galaxy. They had liberated it. His grandson sat beside him, listening to stories of the Great War against the Empire. Grandfather, will there ever be another empire like the hegemony? Admiral Park looked up at the stars, where human ships patrolled alongside, vessels from dozens of allied worlds. Perhaps, young one. But if such darkness ever rises again, it will find the galaxy ready. We have learned that freedom is not free, and that good people must always be willing to stand against evil. Far out in unexplored space, human scout ships continued their missions. They were no longer searching for threats, but for new civilizations that might need help or friendship. Earth's message to the universe was clear and eternal. The galaxy belonged to all who lived in it. No empire would ever again enslave the weak while humanity stood watch. Freedom was the birthright of every sentient being, and Earth would make sure that promise was kept forever. The hegemony empire had been prohibited by Earth. Their passage to conquest was permanently closed. In its place stood something the galaxy had never known before, a community of equals, protected by those strong enough to guard the peace but wise enough not to abuse their power. The age of empires was over. The age of freedom had begun.